the Hope and Healing Center today. You're in for a treat. I'm Peggy Gatermeyer, and I'm the Bioethics and Aging Fellow here. And so I have the great privilege of introducing Tim Van Dyke, our speaker today. But I also want to remind you, if you're new to the Hope and Healing Center, we have lots of things going on here all the time. We have more than 40 different support groups that meet here every week. Everything from 12-step programs to other support groups, including a grief support group, for which I'm going to put in the shameless plug. We meet on the second and fourth Tuesdays upstairs in the CEO's office from 5:45 to 7 o'clock. And it's an open group, so you can come and go as you need to come and go. So we also have another program in the Aging Well series that will be on April 10th with Rebecca Lunstroth from the UT Health Science Center. And on April 11th, we start a 4-week series on Aging with Grace. And that will be in, I believe, room 217 of the Payne Building over at St. Martin's. That's a 4-week program on healthcare, legal, living, and financial issues associated with aging. And I'm the speaker for healthcare, but there are other speakers, experts coming in to talk about the other topics. And it's been a real good series, so I hope some of you will be able to attend that. As I said, it's my great honor today to introduce Tim Van Dyke. Not only is he my former boss, but I consider him a good friend and mentor. He went to Baylor University for undergraduate. He got his Master's of Divinity and his Doctor of Ministry from Southwestern Theological Seminary. He is a licensed professional counselor and family and marriage therapy counselor. He is also the retired VP of Spiritual Care from the Memorial Hermann System. He continues to do his counseling. He's now retired. He's growing butterflies. He's a fantastic woodworker. So please join me today in welcoming Tim and enjoy his talk.
Thank you. Those kind words and introduction. It's an honor to be here at the Hope and Healing Center. What a privilege. Let me congratulate you. You could be outside in this beautiful day, and you come in here to deal with grief, to hear about grief. That's quite a statement, and I congratulate you. One of the things I am not learning very well is I believe that aging well means you laugh deeply and you cry deeply. So maybe today is a little bit more about learning how to grieve and how to cry. But both of those seem to be real important. Yeah, I'm not doing a one-act play over here, okay? This school is for a guy who is aging. In January, I fell over the cord of the cell phone charger, tripping to break my hip, and so I'm I love that symptom. So I'm kind of hopping along, and when I get real tired, I'm going to sit right there. Maybe even so. But I thought I would let you know that that is not a one-act play that you're let me start with a story. She lost so much. When she tried to talk, her throat would squeeze down, the tears would flow. At night, she couldn't sleep. In the daytime, she couldn't wake up. She'd lost so much in her life. And this particular day in the village, the word was that when someone speaking at the edge of the village, the side of a mountain, the people were in the pathways of the village. She didn't want to go. She didn't want to stay. She didn't grieve. You know what that means. She didn't want to go. She didn't want to stay. Wrestling with her own aloneness, she gathered a bit of food, moved into the pathways, along with the folks, got to the edge of the village, and sure enough, thousands were listening, and she couldn't hear. So she worked her way through the crowd, and she heard these words. Blessed are those that mourn, for they should be comforted. Folks, that does not mean that once you're finished mourning, you're comforted. It means that grief is an unwanted gift itself. That as you cathartic, as you release, as you let go of the pain, it makes room for hope, it makes room for healing. But every one of you know, don't you? That doesn't happen overnight. That takes days, weeks, months, years. And you continue to use that unwanted gift, and you're continually comforted by the very fact that you grieve in itself. And I know that sounds like double talk. Hopefully, before the 2 hours is over, you'll understand what I'm trying to say by all of that. First, let me define grief. I define grief as a cognitive, emotive, behavioral, and spiritual adjustment after any loss or before a feared loss. Diagnosis. Why do I have to be so fancy with my definition? This is the reason that's important to me. There are so many people in the world who think that grieving is all about feelings, all about emotion, and it is. But oh, it's so much more. It's this disturbance of cognition. In the midst of grief, sometimes you can't even think straight. Your thoughts go round and continue to come back to the very one or the very job, the very health, the very love that you have lost. And your mind continues to be absorbed in that cognitively. Emotionally, it's like a roller coaster. You think you're over here feeling this, and in a moment, the roller coaster takes you to another feeling. It grabs you, pulls you down under. It's also behavioral. Sometimes people just sit and stay and cannot move. And sometimes they get into workaholism, and everybody thinks they're not grieving, such as you men who get busy in their work harder and harder and harder, because that's the way some people do their It's through the behavioral dimensions of it. Action, taking action. Yet on profound levels, grieving is taking place. And the spiritual journey, that struggle between faith and doubt, and hope, and despair, courage, and fear. Before a loss, as you hear a diagnosis that could be fatal. All of this spiritual struggle taking place is such a normal part of the grief wilderness that we'll be talking about and looking at today. It is so important to understand that we all grieve differently. That what helps you in your seat, that when I say may not help you and it may help the next person. You may identify with some of the things I say, and you may say, what's wrong with that speaker? I've never heard of that. Because everyone grieves differently. We are enculturated early in our lives about loss and about grief. It's interesting, if you go back to the old brain, now the old brain is usually before 6 or 7. And I'll give you 10, before your frontal lobes develop, before the abstract thinking develops. You saw in your family, in your gender models, in the women and the men in your family, you saw how they responded to loss, to bad news, to death. And you enculturated that. You pulled that inside of you as a child, not even having the ability to reflect, well, is that smart or is that not? Is that a good way to do it or is that not? In fact, many of us develop what is called a reaction formation I'll never grieve the way Mom did. That has its own problems, doesn't it? Or the way Dad did. When we have a loss, when we go through immediate, difficult stress and pain, physical and emotional, we tend to regress back to coping behaviors as a child. We go back and we do the jobs of grief, do the tasks of grief in ways that we have no idea where we learned to do that or why we're doing that. But we do. It's automatic. After attending a night and night seminar, I know you'll do this a whole lot differently, right? No, you missed it. When you're under enough stress, immediate pain and stress, you regress back to early ways of coping. And the old brain is often, the old brain meaning the part that's back there that we're not always aware of, is often in charge of those times when we're in loss. So you may wonder, if you're a professional, why do some families fall apart and yell and scream, go to the ground, yell, wailing? Why do other members of the family or families withdraw, go silent, stare? You got it. Everyone is different. Not everyone goes through these fancy stages. You've heard those stages. Those are the people who are misunderstood so many times. And people begin to put people in stages. Not everyone touches all those stages. They do things different. And because of this, they are helped differently. Now, just for a moment, and I'll repeat what you say so we can hear it on the camera. Would y'all help me name some of the events, the losses in your lives or the people around you that have caused this adjustment period, this grief reaction? Could you just name some of these losses? Harvey, just profound losses in Harvey.
My son.
Loss of a son. Divorce.
Loss of a spouse, 52 years.
Loss of a spouse through death. And sometimes I would guess that loss is for changes in health. Cognitive changes. We lose the one we knew. We grieve. Yes.
Suicide of the son.
Suicide of the son.
Involuntary retirement.
Involuntary retirement? Yeah. Did you say layoff? Yeah, layoff, involuntary retirement. You may remember what happened in the 80s when everything crashed. Didn't do quite as badly 10 years ago, but in the 80s when the oil crash came, we ministers were in the saddle doing lots of ministry of those people in those years. What else? Medical issues, yeah. Sometimes dramatic. And sometimes teaspoon by teaspoon. Have you noticed that? It's like you wake up and you realize you've lost a bucket full, but because it was teaspoon by teaspoon, you didn't process, deal with it along the way, and then something grabs you and you don't know what it is that's calling you to deal with this and go into the wilderness and work with this. It goes on and on. I'm a child with Down syndrome, and as fortunate as we are, because Abby's a jewel, a bunch of you know her. You know, the dreams, the first child, the losses and all of that. There's so many different ways in which we lose, and loss can be perceived by one person a certain way, and the same loss can be perceived and experienced by another differently because of our histories, because of our interpretations. So when you're going next door to help somebody, it doesn't help to say, well, this helped me. but to be with them, to help them find out what helps them. Sometimes the sharing does spur some ideas of function and coping. But the real danger in grieving is because I've been there, you've been there. I can tell you endless stories on that kind of care and that kind of event. But what you'll notice a lot of times that cuts off the individual's opportunity to express and cathartic while you're trying really to help them. It interrupts their capacity to do so. There are a number of core concepts that I'd like to talk about, and these core concepts are mine, and you need not agree with them. I'm the speaker, right? I get to say that. You need not agree with the core concepts, but they help you understand where I'm going in this presentation. First, I believe that grief is an unwanted gift. And here, gift, and here, unwanted. And if you're glad you have grief, you missed it. It's an unwanted gift of grief. What happens is that oftentimes our cognition, our confusion, our emotions, our behaviors fill up the empty space of that which we have lost. And it becomes a conduit of pain while we internalize that loss into us before we can go on with our lives. This is a vehicle given to you by God. And I say that because I can't tell you how many ministers and psychotherapists, psychotherapists, I know a number of you are so busy trying to pull people out of their pain, out of their grief, rather than help them use the unwanted gift and work with the pain and go into the pain. Because that's the vehicle in which we work with that ultimately heals us, ultimately frees us to go on living, and to go on living more fully and really more deeply, because we used it. We used the vehicle. Another core concept is, I believe, that grief is an expression of gratitude. We don't tend to grieve over that which does not matter to us. We tend to grieve over that which we have been bonded, over one who we have loved, so that our tears, our frustration, our anger, our confusion is the expression of gratitude to life and to God for that which we had in career, in health, in the life of one who's not with us, who's died, that it is the expression itself of the gratitude. Now, you're not grateful for the death of your child. You understand what I'm saying? Please hear this closely, because it can be so misunderstood. I mean, so many people walk up to me after they see the book and they just say gift. Grief is gift. The title says the unwanted gift of grief. And it's so easy to misunderstand what I'm trying to say, because if indeed you are grateful for the loss, you've missed what I'm trying to say. That pain, the grief of this, the choking down of this, is the actual expression of gratitude to God for that individual, for that health, and that life. That can get confusing, so I want to be sure I say that 2 or 3 different ways during our sessions tonight. Don't let anyone take your grief away. That's your gratitude. Some people can't handle it. Find someone who can. I promise you will not get frozen there. but it will be a celebration of catharsis, of release, tears, of memories, in which you remember and you give thanks in a way that is difficult to explain to another person who's never experienced loss. Again, everyone grieves differently, correct? We all do this differently. I believe that grief is a wilderness. And like Israel, you don't know if you're going north, south, east, or west, and the next thing you know, you're going east again and south. You have no idea where the promised land is. You have no idea where the promised life is, and you're searching, and all you know is you experience your loss and your grief in this wilderness, and it's difficult to find your way, and you are being invited to do grief work. Our culture doesn't like that, by the way. Our culture wants to talk about sex, joy, money, all that success behavior. And our culture doesn't invite folks into the wilderness. Our culture doesn't invite people and go with people into the wilderness in order to heal, but it wants to pull people out of the wilderness. Get them out of their pain quickly. Maybe that's just, make them smile, when that may not be anything near the wilderness in which they live. This wilderness is inviting you to do grief, and the truth is, if you don't grieve, grief will grieve you. Perhaps I'll talk about someone who talked a little later as this unfolds. The wilderness is the invitation to do life and churn life. Churning cream in the butter. Anybody here ever churn cream in the butter? Come on, some of them. Oh, okay. What do you do?
What do you mean?
What do you do when you churn cream in the butter?
Keep doing it until it makes butter.
Was it easy? Was it easy?
Depends on how old you are.
Did it all change all at once?
So,
You just had to keep churning and churning. And what did you see happen?
it started to come together and make butter.
All of a sudden came together,
No, over time.
curded here, curded there maybe, and then slowly over time had a new identity. That's grief. That's the wilderness. In the wilderness, we are invited to churn the cream of life, the cream of our pain, in order to find a new form, a new identity, a new life. Not leave the life, but it's the same substance but different form that you can tell how much work this is. And the wilderness invites you into doing that kind of work, doing that kind of churning, so that slowly you curd here a bit of healing, and curd here a bit of hope, and curd here a bit of new identity and new direction, not leaving the loved one. Curding new identity with the fact that that loved one has loved you. And you're able to go on with life in this new form, in this new transformation. Butterflies, from cocoon, transformation, dying in order to live. A lot of that's taking place in the wilderness. I believe you will need a healthy faith function. Let me talk about what I think that means. We need a faith function that is inspirationally expressive, not inspirationally repressive or suppressive. I'll explain that. Okay? I'll leave you yet. Remember, we're talking about faith function. We're not talking about whether you're Muslim or whether you're Christian or Jew or non-believer. We're talking about the function of that faith. In an unhealthy faith function that is an inspirational, repressive, or suppressive, we take our worship, we take our meditation, our prayers, our music, our yoga, our philosophies, and we use them to push down the pain of the soul, to repress the grief. And as you know, that may make you sicker. The faith function that I think we need to point toward is this faith function that is an inspirational expressive. And that is, you take your music, you take your worship, you take your prayers, you take your philosophies, you take your beliefs, and it gives you the permission to express openly your lament, your grief, your anxiety to your God and to each other. And it finds release from the soul in order for something else to come in, bit by bit, creating that healing curbing of the soul. In faith function that permits us to say what God already knows, rather than lie to God about this happy face. Now, if you want to know what I mean, you can watch a lot of Channel 14, a lot of your religious stations, and you'll hear this constant repression. Give it to God, give it to God, give it to God, give it to God. Well, God gave it as a gift. Use it. Pain through it. Go into the wilderness. God is with you in the wilderness. But we have a lot around us that suggests we should push it down. Smile at the storm. Now, there's place for cognitive reframing. Don't get me wrong. Cognitive positive reframing, there's a place. But sometimes we're so busy putting the cap on the pain, cap on the soul, that we don't do what God's given us to do, and that is to pray real. To cathartic, to release, to let it go, to confess the human condition. Sometimes said, God, I'm mad. I'm alone. I don't like this. And the very fact that you can say that groaning, the very fact that you can do it, is a faith statement. I wish you could be talking to the clouds or the air. But here you are saying honest to the one who holds you and is with you where it hurts, and that is the gift of prayer, by the way. The gift of expressing to God what God already knows. The benefit is ours, because it helps us with our own catharsis. One of the things I like to do in these presentations is stop along the way and talk. But because we are on a program, we're trying to video some things, I'm going to be going on with our presentation, leaving more time at the end for comments and questions. So please, jot them down. I love to get into that part of the presentation. But we just felt like that was the best thing to do for helping others who might watch this video or who might listen to this presentation. So be thinking about comments you would like to make, questions you have for me as this unfolds. I do not believe that God caused this loss for a purpose up God's sleeve. In Christendom, you can get run out of town by saying that. God's in control of all things, and whatever happens, God caused, and God will. And I do not believe, and you do not need to agree with me, just don't run me out of town. I do not believe that God pulls a string to take your child through suicide, or your husband through health, your child, for some purpose I believe with all my soul and all my heart that God is with us to help us find purpose out of it, through it, as God holds us in the midst of going through it. And we find the purpose, not that God caused so we have purpose here, but that God is with us to unfold a new life, a resurrection, a new identity, a new direction. And sometimes those concepts are difficult to grasp in terms of what I'm trying to mean. So feel free later to come back to something like that. Because you see, added to that, I do not believe God took your child, took your husband. I believe God received your child, received your husband. When I heard that in seminary, I thought the world had fallen apart. Here I was, young theologian, and God's in control of all things, and God takes, and God takes. And I heard a professor say that, C.W. Brister, and it's like something had to be readjusted into my entire psyche, spiritual, theological psyche, to come to understand a God of covenant that is with us so deeply. Whether we're at the mountaintop or in the valley, whether we're in tears or in solid joy, our God is so deeply with us in that covenant. And to come to understand that was totally new to this young man in seminary out to save the world, and make sure everybody gets with this concept of God's in control. Oh, we could talk about all the different theories of God's will. And I don't mean to say God doesn't have some ultimate movement in history. But I am trying to communicate to you directly about your loss is not something up God's sleeve for you, but will be with you to find purpose out of this loss, this intense pain. I believe you'll need sojourners. In fact, that's one of the reasons I wrote the book. First half is the wilderness. The second half is how do you help someone in the wilderness? And I was writing it for the next door neighbor. I don't think people listen very well. Oh, yeah, I heard the laugh. I don't think people know how to help. These people I call sojourners. They are. They're ministers, they're psychiatrists, they're therapists, they're neighbors, they're nurses. Sojourners come in so many different forms, but they're people who are able to empathically empty out of themselves and walk with you in your journey and listen to you and allow you to do your grief work, and they're not threatened by it, and they're not trying to talk you out of it, and they're not trying to get you to the higher happy plane. Because they know God moves people, not them. They know God's in the midst of this and heals this, not them. So look for sojourners. If we circled up, I could ask each of you, who are some people who walked with you through your pain, your loss? It'd be great small group activity. Well, what did they do? What did these sojourners do that helped you?
Listen.
Here's the other side of the question. What did they do that interrupted your help? That did not help? And that's one of the ways we become through listening better and better sojourners. We're going to be talking about pathways in the wilderness. Okay? And some of these pathways we've kind of heard of, but remember what I'm trying to say is not everyone goes through all of these pathways, nor do they stage and unfold, okay? Because we know a lot about this first pathway, which we're in shock. I can't believe this is true. This is impossible. It just can't be right that they diagnosed this. The gift is that it pushes away reality. until slowly we can ready ourselves and our spirit to accept reality and work with reality. And if you've ever been with someone, we see a lot in hospitals, who's in the midst of this shock and this drama, you've seen this so many times, it's like a gift. They push it away. And the real danger is that some people push it away and it becomes a denial, an ongoing denial. Some people don't get help because they're denying that it's true in the first place. The shock is denying that they truly need to get help. I was called to cardiovascular area, the coronary unit, intensive unit. Elizabeth had come in during the night, mid-50s. She had chest pain. She was in the unit, intensive unit. And during the night, she had wept and cried, and the nurses could not get her into discussion about that. So when I came in, luckily they didn't call me in the middle of the night, but maybe I should have been there. But when I came in the next morning, they said, would you visit with Elizabeth? No. Sure, what's happening? So I go in and I introduce myself to Elizabeth and what happened, why are you here? She gives me facts. And then tears surface. And I keep listening. Asking about the tears. Which happened 5 years ago. My husband died of cancer. Nurses didn't know. And I made my husband a promise because he asked me never to grieve him or their life together, but to always think in joy of the time they had together. And she looked at me and said, Chaplain, I made that promise and I kept that promise perfectly until last night. I have not cried, I have not mourned. And last night, I think that caused the breaking of my heart. That is what broke my heart, she said. Well, I don't know what you know about chemistry. If you hold that stuff long enough, and you're going to have change in electrolyte systems and chemistries. And sure enough, she didn't have blockage. The doctor's order was, along with getting her leveled out with some normal heartbeats, the doctor wanted me to meet with her regularly, and she wanted her to cry more. And the more she cried, the more the pain, chest pain. You've been there probably yourself. Holding, and finally the flow comes forward and releases, and you begin to release the pain. And that's what Elizabeth was doing. What she had done is she had denied not that he died. She had denied the emotion and the grief that comes with it. And that had collected in such a way that she exploded inside. And she needed to do that kind of grief work. It's funny how somebody can laugh and cry at the same time. That's what most remember about it. She would cry and smile and cry and smile. You could tell something good was happening as she was doing this grief. Let's talk about the pathway of frustration, irritation, irritability, impatience. And the good old psychological world may even call it anger. The Christian world runs from that word for some reason. But it's all in the angry family, folks. This pathway has within it this profound sense of frustration because I am creature and I'm not the creator, and I'm mad about that. This has within it question that frequently surfaces in the form of why. Why, chaplain, my daughter? Why, chaplain, my son? Why my career? And if you think in that moment that you're supposed to answer that, you belittle their mystery. You say, in frustration and anger, that takes us right to the edge of mystery, that which we know and that which we do not know, and we sit with them and help them. We help Job verbalize or express the mystery of what's going on in the midst of why. And the moment we think we have the answer, we belittle them. I mean, I read, I think, 11 different theories of the will of God. Now, some of them may even hold water a little while. But folks, when we're in the middle of the wilderness, it's not the time when someone is looking for this organized thesis on God's will. That's the time in which they are looking at the mystery. And if you're sitting with them and realizing that you too sit in mystery, somehow they are profoundly held by your love, profoundly cared for by your listening ears, and it belittles them if suddenly you think you have these answers to the mystery. And I don't. Maybe you do. So in anger, frustration, and patience, oftentimes you have that line. But the frustration and anger can go in so many directions. Toward the self, former guilt, I should have known. Toward the one who died, how can he leave me with this? I don't know what to do with these finances. How can she leave me with this? I can't cook for 3 children. So we get angry at the very one that's died. I get story about it. Not enough time. The anger and the frustration can go out toward friends. It can go toward the pastor, the congregation, the church. It can go out toward the healthcare team. Listen, we live in a world that expects the medical, technological apple. If I go to the hospital, I ought to be able to receive that apple. I ought to be able to get that pill or that technology and live forever. So that when it doesn't happen, I'm going to say we don't make mistakes. The humanity that's in it. But I'm saying oftentimes that frustration and anger is placed in the face of healthcare in the church. It's so important not to defend them. Not to defend healthcare, God, and the church, but to allow the pounding to come upon them, to allow that frustration to literally be vomited upon you and return it to them in loving arms. Because that is what God does for us in the midst of our frustration. In the back hall, where I'm just telling my daughter, is really retarded in way, and they have a 60, 40, 80 IQ, and I'm back there swinging my fist, looking for God's unseen joy. And somehow it helped. Somehow I knew that he would receive my fist and return it to me with grace and love. And a voice says, you can do this. The voice says you can make this. And remember, not all in one event. Not days and weeks, months, over and over. There is a real gift in frustration and anger in that it really does lead to catharsis, to confession of the human condition, release. Also, it helps people stand up. We have organizations that are born because of anger, mad. And you can probably think of others. I can give you stories of others. But our frustration and our anger wants to stand up and not be the victim, but literally change culture. And the hope is we get healed through a couple of years before we will change the world. We can change the world better if we will. But that's also one of the gifts of this pathway, as one works with why, what, frustration, where can I take this into a creative direction? How do I become a wounded healer? And that's the creativity that comes with the frustration and the anger. Let's talk about another pathway. Let's talk about miracles. Oh boy, I'm in trouble on that. It goes something like this. Yes, I know that I have been diagnosed with a terminal illness, but I believe in Jesus. And Jesus will heal me. Or I believe in meditation or yoga. Or I believe in 10 other doctors, not this one. You follow? There is this search for miracle when we face our humanity in the mirror. And we pray for that. We hope for that. The first thing I want you to hear, please, we have studies. I can name some of those physicians. Studies where prayer, faith, when it comes in relationship with medical science and medicine, literally has a more powerful healing result. Okay? So don't hear me as saying there's not a place for faith and prayer. Two together do bring greater result. There's caution. And many of you know that caution. You pray. And your loved one may not have gotten the miracle as you hoped. The caution is that somehow we become isolated. Somehow we think we have to have perfect prayer, perfect faith in order to receive this miracle. And then we begin to isolate because maybe, just maybe, my faith isn't strong enough. And maybe a little guilt takes over. Or family steps aside because once the grief starts hitting and the reality starts hitting that I'm not going to get the miracle. Once that begins to hit, there can be a pulling away of the people who are trying to keep this perfect faith. Jim's in the seminar where I'm teaching, a resident in his 50s. And he's back there and you can tell something going on with Jim. Afterwards, I'm talking about this stuff, this complex, painful stuff. He comes in the office, he sits down, and the tears come. He said, "You were talking about me today." What do you mean? 5 years before, his wife had been diagnosed with cancer. They were of the tradition, the church, congregation tradition, that you pray for a miracle, but you pray perfectly, without any doubts. You may know people like this. You can't breathe because that's a doubt. You can't let honest talk happen because that's a doubt. So this tradition believes that if you keep up the faith in a very positive way, then God can act and God can bring the miracle. And he said people would come from the church and pray for her. I would be with her, and the moment tears started coming to her eyes, I would leave the room. And people stopped coming because she wasn't getting healed. And then she dies, and they all came back and said, "It's God's will." When she was isolated, Rose calls me at the house, gravelly voice, Chaplain Tim. Nobody can say my last name. Chaplain, I've got a question for you. Uh-oh. Rose knew how to ask questions. Is there anywhere place in the Bible that it says it's a sin to go to hospice? Oh, she was serious? Because let me tell you the story. My response was, don't think so, but I'm coming in the morning, let's talk. But here's the story. She had cancer. Doctor brought her in, radiation, showing tumors, blocking off her breathing. We've done this for almost 6 weeks, in and out every 2 to 3 days. There was really nothing that medical science could do. It recommended a hospice. She pushed that away. She's going to be healed. She had a brother-in-law, an evangelistic team. If I told you the name of the team, you'd know immediately. A brother-in-law who was on that team would come in every day and put oils on her and beseech that she pray positively that she will receive the miracle and be healed. Well, the adult kids are about to shoot somebody because they're over here working with a doctor, and mom won't talk to them, and they can't talk to mom because they're a perfect faith will get you a miracle. So I say to her, I'll be in the morning. I take my deep breaths, I go in, and I sit in. And she tells me what I've already known, my children, my doctor, because she hadn't even talked to me about this. You understand? You can't talk negatively. Grief is in some people's eyes a negative experience. And as she talked, the tears began to surface. And she choked them down, and she talked. Finally, she said, Chaplain, I don't think I'm going to get the miracle. And she talked, and I listened. And then I said, you know, Rose, you remind me of Jesus. I thought she was going to fall off the bed. Here she's thinking she has no faith at all. What do you mean, Chaplain? Jesus wanted to live. Wanted the cancer lifted, the cross lifted, and you do too. Yet, it looks like it may not be lifted. And that's exactly what happened to Jesus. He faced it. And now, in this profound faith, you're facing it. It had never occurred to her that faith is to walk into death in all of its labor and contractions until one is received in the womb of God forever. Never occurred to her. But constantly faith was to push away so that, like all of us, we want to live. So she used that prayer. One of the things you need to know if you're a therapist, minister, is don't do surgery on the prayer. Don't do surgery on their theology. Come to bond with them so that when those moments come, that there is trust established and they see that it's not working, their faith is not working, then they trust you and can openly use you to say, Chaplain, is this a sin? Because a lot of times if you start with surgery, trying to put straight their theology, you might lose the relationship. And walk with them through the wilderness that they are facing with all of their family, with their doctors. You know, faith is easy. If you can just snap your finger, pray to be healed. It's easy. There's not even something miraculous about that. Let me tell you what's hard, faith. Is to walk every day with an illness. To grow every day with a baby with Down syndrome. Next day after Andy was born, my friend was in the car with me, pulled up in front of a gas station, and he had just said, I believe in miracles, and I'm going to pray that Andy be normal. Luckily, I had to get out of the car to pump my gas, because I didn't know how to respond. Everything within me wanted that. She's a cutie. I mean, she's a cutie. Everything within me wanted that. Normal. So I pumped my gas and I got inside and said, I just can't pray that way. I pray that God gives me courage to walk with her every day, to accept her and help her grow every day to what she can possibly be. And I don't know how I got that way. I was 25 years of age, 26 years of age. You know, you say things you don't know why you say them. I look back on that, and that it takes more miracle to say yes to them than suddenly it's gone. As I've watched for years, 45 years, healthcare, I've seen this in families. I've seen the miracle of holding each other's hands, helping each other go through those lingering contractions, saying goodbye. They come to what our buyout talks is so important. This physician that talks about dying well, and this book is called Living Well. The 4 things that matter most, he said. Our buyout, MD. 4 things that matter most is that we be able to say, I love you. Thank you for loving me. Forgive me. I forgive you. That is what the dying process is. That's what it means to say yes to death when the sacred time comes. When you have literally given healthcare everything you can, and you've begun to clearly see that these are the days of walking into the journey of life and into death, and that death is a part of life. And folks, I talk big today. The day I fell was the day my wife was told she has a rare form of lymphoma. And I have all these fancy words for you that I really believe. And I want the miracle. We live with God in a journey. But I do believe, as I watch the people who have been in healthcare, these families say yes to the journey all the way into God's life forever. Well, it's too bad we don't have time for discussion, because this is usually the time the audience wants to throw me out. Because when you start talking about miracles, you step on some toes. Because someone has always experienced something in their lives they call miracle. I got to tell you, I'm talking about Abby all day. Day in which she was 26, it was a miracle. But it's rare that I see it. And the greater miracle is to say yes to death and live with that forever and into it forever. Well, let's talk about the pathway of sadness and depression. You know you're in a good place when you finally get depressed, okay? Because you let go of all this, oh man, I'm waiting for a miracle, or you let go of some of your anger with God, and you're looking in the mirror and saying, this is really it. And with it comes this reality and the sadness that then God can and you can work with. You say, well, in grief, oftentimes the transcendent God seems so far away, seems so distant. We can't get a hold of that transcendent God. And the gift of sadness and depression is that we begin to go into our own internal sanctuary within. And do the work there maybe of the caterpillar, shaking the cocoon, doing the grief work there, entering the wilderness through one's own soul in the internal sanctuary. One begins to do the work of healing, turning the corner, saying yes to the way life is, and saying that faithfully. When someone talks about this internal sanctuary, it's so different for everybody. Words are so empty. But I'm going to try to put into words what I think happens in this internal sanctuary in the midst of grieving, okay? These are my words. They need not be your words. Because as I listen to people, they would write this internal sanctuary different. Have you been to Carlsbad Caverns when the lights went out? Was it dark? A lot of folks, when they get to this point in the journey, really feel the darkness and they begin to walk by grace. So I'm going to capture some of what I think is happening as one does the churning of healing. Vision gives way to touch, sensing, and intuition. Thinking gives way to emotions and confusion. Knowing gives way to unknowing. Masks and facades give way to transparency. We are known. Our rational self gives way to wonder and mystery. Temporal time gives way to eternal time. Letting go of the way life has been, we are transformed into the way life can be. Our penultimate hold on life, the people around us, gives way to an ultimate hold on God, Creator. We find in the inner sanctuary, if we're willing to be there, if we're willing to stay there, we find God Emmanuel. God with us. God with them. Often we have to journey into the wilderness and into the internal sanctuary in order to hear that voice and find that God that we could not find transcendently, but now can find imminently. We know we are carved in the palm of God's hand. We find a new creation in ourselves. We find transformation in ourselves. We find new identity. Now, this is hard work. It won't be done by tomorrow morning. It's a journey. And if we circled up and said, what happens to you when you go into your sanctuary, into your healing places, in your hurting places? Each of us would have different words. So I'm merely trying to use my words as trying to say how significant and important it is. Now, I do want to say there's a limit to depression and sadness. That is, it often can become clinical depression. Those of us in ministry and for next door neighbors, we need to know when someone is tapping into a clinical depression and may not be able to go into that pain, and they may need some medical help to take off the high of life, to take off the deep life, and keep them in such a way that they can do good grieving, good hurting, good crying, good sadness work so they can heal without dipping down into the deep places. I don't know if you know it, but 40%, 41% actually, all people who hurt turn to spiritual leaders. And hopefully, we spiritual leaders are watching for dramatic changes in sleep patterns, dramatic changes in eating patterns, dramatic changes in sexual appetite. No motivation, a wish to die. We're listening for those. And folks, in grief, every one of those are there, aren't they? Does that mean you're clinically depressed? Well, But if we do not have appetite or we eat too much for long periods of time, we can get sick. If indeed our sleep patterns are so messed up that we cannot work, we not only get sick, we may lose our jobs and ability to take care of children. And we may have hypersexuality as well as hyposexuality and not understand the drivenness and the depression that causes people to search for God in those relationships. And to have suicidal ideation is so normal to one who's lost a dear spouse for life. But if those go on and on, if those keep us from functioning on and on, that's a time in which we need to be reviewed, assessed, and find a medication that will level out our sleeping, level out our eating, level out our motivation levels, level out our depression levels, our suicidal levels, so we can balance and function, not gleefully, but realistically, till we make it through. Sometimes those medications are 6 months, a year. I got time. He was a senior in college, falling apart. His fiancee, and they would be married in May. It's around Christmas time. Broke up the relationship. He goes in the frat house and just buries himself in beer and drugs and never goes to class. And he somehow gets to my office. I can't remember how he got that. And I mean, he's hurting. And his love of his life has ended the relationship. And he's having difficulty functioning, breathing, many times breathing. And in there, he wants to talk about her and grief, and we do that for a number of sessions. And finally, I felt like I could get him to tell me a little bit about himself. Because I hadn't yet been able to get a good picture of his journey. And this is what he said. His mother died when he was 4. Did you get it? See, in loss, many times the losses and the pains of the past surface in the present, and they say, "Deal with me." Or they pull us down into the present, and we don't know why it's so deep or why it's such a painful task. And our job became grieving not only the loss of this beautiful young woman, but a 4-year-old inside him. Interestingly enough, what I think I discovered is his needs for her were so strong, it smothered her. And she could not take care of his needs. And if you think about a 4-year-old boy, mother's dying, you can understand why that would be such a strong push. I'm trying to say that in this journey of grief, be ready for other things to resurface that won't be dealt with again or didn't get finished, or in our childhood we got put away. They won't be dealt with. They won't be worked with. They won't be healed. They won't be redeemed. They won't be saved for this. Believe it or not, if we stay in the journey, stay in the internal sanctuary, if we continue to use the grieving process, we begin to into this pathway called acceptance. And it's like this. It's like, oh my goodness, yesterday I felt this. You ever had that? Yesterday I felt it. Didn't know? Not right now. Boy, yesterday I did. And you think, well, I feel better. You begin to get on with life a little bit. You laugh occasionally. You're making it, but you gotta watch this thing called hypervigilance. What's that word I'm looking for? Because everybody wants that word. Euphoria. It's a real, joyful problem that as one begins to come out of the desert, out of the wilderness, and begins to feel the healing, they begin to experience euphoria. It feels so good. I even see the trees blossoming. Or I get married and find out it's not the right one. It just felt so good. So we do have to kind of keep an eye on this euphoria, but we're moving toward a healing process. And healing is always ing. We are never healed. Okay? We're never saved. We're always being saved. We're always in process. So this process that moves toward healing is a little different than what I just mentioned. If it's Wednesday and you're single again and you're in the midst of this acceptance role, it's like, oh goodness, I don't have any plans this weekend. What can I do? So you call the church, you call friends, you set up this, you schedule your weekend. This is important. This is how you get through, right? Yes. But it's not a healing. Healing would look more like this. It's Wednesday and you realize you don't have any plans for the weekend. And you think, I could call the church, just could call friends. I could just wrap up that book. I haven't been able to just sit here and read that book anymore. See, one's a reality that life is an invitation again, and one's a reality of drivenness. You're not in that healing state if you're driven to make it. You will notice you begin to feel the same ups and downs of life. And that's when you know you're in healing. You begin to feel those moments that went down, you process, those peekaboo experiences you process, keep going. There's not a drivenness to try to reschedule, overschedule in order to make it. So what is healing about? Here I've blessed hurting, I've blessed tears, I've blessed grief, but what for? The hope is to get where we're heading right now. By using the gift, by entering the wilderness, by entering the inner sanctuary, we begin to experience healing. Now, to tell you that words were empty earlier, and the words are empty here too, that I have to somehow tell you what I think I hear when I listen to people. When I listen to clients, when I listen to people that are hurting, coming out of the wilderness. These are the things that I've learned and I've listened to. So you may want to just say, check off, but be careful. Don't be too hard on yourself. These are characteristics of a healing. And this is what all that hard work's for. That's what all this unwanted gift of grief is for, is to move us to new identity. And it looks, feels something like this. In a healing state, not every thought circles back to your loss. Glorification is released. You know what I mean by that? Real tendency when someone we love dies, we're glorified. And finally, we let them be human beings just like we are. What weaknesses and strengths. But the glorification begins to release. This individual embraces and lives with mystery. This individual carries their disease, their losses, their crosses, and goes on with them. Not leaving them at the riverside. They carry them. They learn to carry them creatively. They don't deny it. What courage have you ever seen this? This person has embraced the meaning of healed, not just cured. There are many people who are cured, and they're never healed. There are many people who are healed, but they're never cured. Face death itself. This person has come to believe, I will live as long as I live. If you have a diagnosis, listen to that. I will live as long as I live. That's like Mark Twain talks about, some people die at 17 and they're buried at 77 or something like that. I'm telling you, some people get a diagnosis and they literally stop living. Literally stop living. And this is all about a person. Have you ever listened to someone who has a new diagnosis or cancer treatment and they begin to talk about seeing things in life, noticing things in life that they did not realize or notice prior to this? It's like that they're seeing something that they didn't see before. This person has a deeper sense of humor, wisdom, and spirituality. They have stronger coping muscle, they have stronger emotional muscle, they have stronger spiritual muscle because they've been through the wilderness. And you can hear it in their stories. And one of the things you hear in their stories is the location of God has changed in their stories. When you get to this healing place, you know, when you're in the grief, you wonder, where is God? God was out back there, or someday God made him. But as they begin to heal, they begin to talk about God was with me. And that's one of the signs of we're moving toward that place. This person loves and lives more autonomously than ever before. They have a differentiated soul, and that differentiated soul enters relationships with love. And what does that mean? Do you remember an old scripture that says we're in the world but not of it? That's differentiation. I'm in the marriage but not of it. I'm in this loss but not of it. I'm in cancer but not of it. This person has learned to live with the reality that they love people because they are gifts and not becoming enmeshed, losing their hope in the person, but sharing hope in life with the person. What has happened is that this person has integrated and internalized this vacuum. Remember the vacuum? The gift, the grief, the vacuum of space, and the emotions, and all the work there, the tears. You've begun to internalize within yourself that individual's love, that experience, so that you go on and you love more fully and joyfully because of your love. She just about panicked. She'd been 2 years since John's death. She went out on a date and she had fun. And she went in the house and slammed pillows and she was panicked. She came to therapy and she couldn't tell me about being panicked. I went backwards. I'm not where I thought I was. And what had happened is that on that date, she felt like she had left John. Deserted John. Oh no. Oh no. You're taking his love into yourself with you to love others more fully because he loved you fully. That is what is at the heart of the healing process. So that the tears are not the memorial. Okay? They're not the tribute. Although tears are important to express gratitude. The tribute becomes to go on with your life in love, joyfully and fully, because you have loved and even lost. And love others, other children, other people. More. Y'all stayed awake, and I appreciate that. At least I think all of it. That really ends the formal part of my presentation. And now I want to be sure to hear from you, questions, comments. I'll try to repeat them on our cameras. And they're not pointing to you, so don't feel like you have to sign some permission. But what would you like to do in the next 30 minutes, really? You don't have to use it, but surely you all have a lot from that. You've been taking it in and taking it in and taking it in. Yes, ma'am.
I am this lecture, I'm on a gene research lecture for lost son, electronic disease, and eventually after a doctor told me there's no cure for disease of mine. And I want to thank you for being here on a public meeting, because this has been the most revealing talk on grief, and I believe I've been to me. And so thank you for being here today.
I'm glad you're here.
Tim, I can't pronounce your last name.
I can't either. It's Taylor, that's all I ever know.
I can barely pronounce my first name. First of all, thank you for your book, because your book meant so much to me on the journey of healing. And thank you about scripture, because I wrote in scripture, with Chad's death, I wrote in scripture, Chad cried out to you, but you didn't answer. And so, God can handle it.
Yes.
And the pain, that pain that comes upon you is undescribable. But I knew the only way I could heal was to face that pain. And one pain that I was avoiding was the tombstone. And I avoided that for about 2 years. And so I finally knew I needed to do that. And so when I did, it was another experience. But you can't heal unless you embrace the pain. And God just will not let you avoid the pain. He will say, I want to heal you, but you're going to have to face the pain. But I just thank you for you. And I thank you that your book was on top of the list in my journey to heal.
Thank you very much. I think they turned off the cameras. I'm not going to repeat. I couldn't possibly repeat everything that's been said. But thank you. I'm grateful you're here.
Is it odd or okay? Sometimes you're mad at the person.
Person who's gone.
You're going.
It's not so odd in my book because I watch a lot of this in hospitals and minister counseling.
No big thrill of madness or anything.
What do you think it is?
Some days something happens, I say, gee whiz, that's bad to me. You know, this problem with
Yeah.
another something or other to deal with. But I mean, sometimes it's, you know, it's that little bit.
I want to encourage you to express it directly to God. You're mad. I think God already knows. So the expressing is what the gift is to help you release it in cathartic. But everything you're saying, and I know normal is a crazy word for any of us, but everything you're saying is so normal in terms of anger toward the person for whatever reason, leaving us toward life, for God.
And I think, this is my sister here, and I don't know if she remembers, but I think our mother expressed that when our father died.
So you're good teachers.
Yeah.
Good teachers.
That's the way some of her sadness
Only get angry at someone who you truly believe is there. You can only wrestle by getting close to it. Wrestle. Keep it.
But what do you think about dreams?
Oh, we had 2 hours, we could get it.
Because he visits.
Does he? What I think is many people experience that. Many don't, so don't panic if you don't. Many times dreams are our way of doing something in our sleep that we couldn't get to during our daytime work. So it comes out in our sleep. But yes, is that a good experience for you, or is that not a good?
It
It's humorous.
Yes, every day stuff. And, it was like, about a month after he died. And I dreamed we were in an airport. And I was doing something, luggage and all that. And I turned around and he said, I said, what are you doing? And he said, well, I'm thinking about our next trip. And I thought in my head, I didn't think we'd have a next trip. And then all at once, we were leaving, it was like an airport where you take your luggage and you go out through a vendor exit. And he was on, and there was a gate. And I was on this side. And he was on that side. And he was smiling and laughing, like, oh gosh, you've got a problem.
Wow.
But he was there on the other side, and I told one of our fathers here at the church, it was like he was singing to me. It was like, I'm still alive, and that's why I'm still on the side. And then, he was dressed smartly like he always was. I don't know, it was just
If you have someone that will listen to you and not interrupt you and help you look at every detail of that, you'll love it. Dreams are so filled with things we can deal with, whether it's catharsis, whether it's joy. But usually, we have to be telling someone else. Sometimes you can go through journaling. But keep it up. Keep listening to those dreams. Keep working with this.
I have a question. When you were talking about miracles, and is that just another way of saying magical thinking? Sometimes we get into this mode of magical thinking that, if we do something, if we do this, it's not bargaining so much as just, well, I think this is what I want to happen so much that I don't see what's really.
Yeah. Oh, this is a hard one to respond to. Well, if you heard, is it really magical thinking to think in terms of miracles? Magical thinking belittles the journey. So I don't like to say our yearning, our prayers, our wish for healing is magical thinking. Okay? Truly, what we yearn for can make a difference in our lives, both in the healing process, but also can help us transform and accept the dying process. That's not magic. And I think we do, and I'm going to come out and contradict myself, we do have to watch. We want to keep being God. I'm sorry, I'm still hacked off. I'm still hacked off, but I'm a creature. So I get into this magical thinking, if I can just get one more apple, I have it forever. What I'm saying is that we human beings who are not in touch with infinite stuff oftentimes go to the magic as a way of making it for an hour or making it for a while. If we stay there too long, we may miss the opportunity to do some of the things that needs to be done, say in the dying process, like goodbyes and I love you and I forgive you and please forgive me. We stay in the magic and it buffers us from being real talk and be isolated.
But the problem with the one who's dying is the one who's speaking magically,
Oh,
and there's no talking.
did y'all hear this? This is very, very true. We marry our opposites, and 18 months later, we're mad. She said it is very difficult if one of you is in the magical place and one of you wants to talk and be serious and open. Well, it's very, very common. And sometimes that's because we're trying to take care of the other. How would you do that?
We're fine, it hasn't been adjusted.
Okay, you help me with that.
Yeah.
This man came to my office. He said, Tim, I need your help. My wife and I are not communicating. She's in her final stages of cancer, trying to encourage her. We just don't communicate. Will you come listen to me and listen to us, watch us, and tell us what we're doing wrong? And I want to sign that right there. I didn't want any part of this. So because they happen to go to my church, and I kind of knew a little bit about them, but not much, I said, okay, but we're going to go upstairs and talk to your wife and see if she wants to do this. Oh. I get up there, and we'll call Ann and Joe. And this is what I understand. Joe's come down and said, we are having a difficult time communicating. And he asked me to just kind of be with you, observe, and give you some feedback. Is that really what you want to do? And she said yes. I admired her a moment. I never met her. And so I said, well, you don't just talk about what's going on. What's going on in your lives, disease, the family, whatever you want to talk about. And every time she would talk about losing her family, or grandkids, or home, or garden, little tears would come with her words. He would come through with this very positive comment. We're going to make this. You're going to be able to go back to that garden. And she would stop. Stop for a while. Say more. So she'd go back, and after a while, she'd try to please him for a little bit, stay positive, denying. Then she got into the story again, her grief, her tears, her goodbyes. Now, Ian, I know it hurts, but we're going to go through this, and you're going to have, you follow me? Now, this went on 30 minutes. I didn't choose one or two interactions. And so I finally said, well, folks, y'all have asked me to come give you feedback. Yeah, we want to know what's going on. That's up to us. Joe, every time Ian hurts and expresses it, you love her so much, you want to do something to make her feel better. And then Ian stops letting you in on what's going on with her. And Ian, every time he says something different, positive, you love him so much that you don't want to keep sharing with him all this pain. Oh, both of them are crying now. So the restructuring is, how do we help you both? Talk to each other, listen to each other, not try to make each other feel good, but help each other feel what you feel. That's close to what you're talking about, isn't it? So, we marry somebody because they compliment us. 18 months later, we're mad because they're different from us.
I am a retired hospice nurse. I'm terminally ill with progressive lung disease. My husband was taking care of me, making everything perfect. And 6 months into my disease, he was diagnosed with stage 4 glioblastoma. And I lost him long before he died in January. I lost the touch, the smiles, and the talking. And there's no going back. To my sister-in-law, we lost her husbands within a year of each other. I don't have dreams. It's very hard to have hope.
It's very hard to have hope.
And to be perfectly honest, there are times when I wish I know I can do without him. I just don't want to.
We're in the same boat with different boys.
Didn't you?
2 brothers passed away within a year.
Oh,
Yeah,
goodness.
we're in the
Yes.
same situation. Not being too happy about it.
And my family is like
You're,
husband.
you're really courageous to be here.
Thank you.
How in the world did you come?
She drove me.
Good for you? How's it been
hurtful.
today? This
Painful.
How was today?
It's painful.
Painful.
Because, I was with his mother when she died of lung cancer. I was the hospice nurse / daughter-in-law. But I wasn't the hospice nurse this time. I was the wife. And I resented people that were coming into hospice and doing things that we were supposed to do. I'm angry. It was supposed to be me.
years what?
It was supposed to be me.
She got the terminal diagnosis and then he immediately came
Why am I still here? My daughter says she found more work to do, Mom. I want you more purpose. Well, I wish they'd only tell me what it is.
Let's get on with it, God.
Yes. Sorry.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. I do have all the answers, but
Yeah.
living in the why is a tough place to live. Mystery is very
And
difficult.
putting on masks for your children because they don't want to hear it. My mom is better from. I have no idea.
Let us know. Somebody else. Yes.
I work a great deal with adolescents, and some of the adolescents not having a faith or any form of belief, higher belief. You said about 40% of people tend to kind of seek out spiritual aid when they're. What do the other 60% when you're working in the hospital? What are you kind of going with them through?
Okay, but I understand why you're working with adolescents.
Okay.
They don't seem to have a faith,
Correct.
and yet I said 40% of people who hurt
Correct.
turn towards spiritual leaders, spiritual people.
So when those who are not turning towards a spiritual belief or a spiritual person to talk to, where are you kind of going with them in their journey of grief?
I worked for 5 years as a minister of youth, college and high school, and I have no idea what to say to you. Adolescents are a breed of their own. Many times it's peer to peer where the conversation takes place. And as ministers or leaders with adolescents, if we can provide a place where they can talk together, maybe with us, but for sure together, and teach them how to listen to each other without giving all that platitudes or all the faith comments, but love them in such a way that you are embodying God's love for them without having to talk about God. Something profoundly will be written in them they will never forget as long as they live. That's the easy answer. Tough question. Adolescents, breed of their own. Someone else. You all have been very attentive, and thank you so much for being here. And have a good day and enjoy the sun if you can.